Hello, good evening, and welcome. Happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday. So, we're getting into this last little bitty, teeny weeny section of chapter 14, which is titled La Selva Subterranea, the initiation into the underground forest. And that is out of this book we're getting back into, which is Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And this is going to be, I think there's only one more reading after this for this book, after all these months. Wow, right? All right, so let's get into it. The seventh stage, the Wild Bride and Bridegroom. Now the king returns, and he and his mother comprehend that the devil has sabotaged their messages. The king vows a purification, to go without eating or drinking, and to travel as far as the sky is blue in order to find the maiden and their child. He searches for 7 years. His hands become black, his beard moldy brown like moss, his eyes red-rimmed and parched. During this time, he neither eats nor drinks, but a force greater than himself helps him live. At last he comes to the inn kept by the woods people. There he is covered by a veil, sleeps, and wakens to find a lovely woman and a beautiful child gazing down at him. "I am your wife, and this is your child," says the young queen. The king is willing to believe, but sees that the maiden has hands. Through my travails, and yet my good care. Oh no, wait, this is her speaking. Through my travails, and yet my good care, my hands have grown back, she says. And the spirit woman in white brings the silver hands from a trunk where they'd been treasured. There is a spiritual feast. The king, queen, and child return to the king's mother and hold a second wedding. Here at the end, the woman who has made this sustained descent has melded together a sturdy quaternity of spiritual powers. The knightly animus, the child self, the old wild mother, and the initiated maiden. She has been washed and purified many times. Her ego's desire for the safe life is no longer led dog. Her ego's desire for the safe life is no longer led dog. Now this quaternity leads the psyche. I'm confused. Hey, that way, welcome in. Her ego's desire for the safe life is no longer led dog. Does that make... Hey, Dad, welcome in. Does that make sense to you? Can you guys explain this to me? I don't understand. Her ego's desire for the safe life is no longer led dog. That way? Anyone? Do you guys know what that means? Oh. Hey, the fair's in town. This is really bad for me, but delicious. Oh my gosh. Huckleberry lemonade. It's very good. It's so good. So, okay. Nobody understands. I wish. Say what? Say what? Okay, so do you understand what this... Oh wait. About the fair, or about my awesome huckleberry lemonade, or her ego's desire for the safe life is no longer led dog. Now, this quaternity leads the psyche. So it's a kind of like a comparison between the psyche leading and just some stray dog, I guess. That's where I'm at on that. Okay. It is the suffering and wandering of the king that brought about the final reunion and remarriage. Why does he, who is king of the underworld, have to wander? Is he not king? Well, the truth of the matter is that kings, too, have to do psychic work, even archetypal kings. Within this tale is the old and extremely cryptic idea that when one force of the psyche changes, the others must shift as well. Here, the maiden is no longer the woman he married, no longer the frail, wandering soul. Now she is initiated. Now she knows her woman's ways in all matters. Now she is wizened with the stories and counsel of the old wild mother. She has hands. All right, thank you. I like the backup. Thank you that way. So the king must suffer to develop himself. In some ways, this king remains in the underworld, but as an animus figure, he represents a woman's adaptation to collective life. He carries the dominant ideas she has learned in her journey to the topside, or outer society, except he has not yet walked in her shoes. And this he must do in order to carry what she is and what she knows out into the world. After the old wild mother informs him that he has been duped by the devil, he himself is plunged into his own transformation through wandering and finding, just as the maiden had done before him. He has not lost his hands, but he has lost his queen and his offspring. So the animus follows a path quite similar to that of the maiden. This empathic replay reorganizes a woman's way of being in the world. To reorient the animus in this manner is to initiate and integrate it into a woman's personal work. This may be how there came to be male initiates at the essentially feminine initiation at Eleusis. These men took on the tasks and travails of female learning in order to find their psychic queens and psychic offspring. The animus enters its own 7-year initiation. In this manner, that which a woman has learned will be reflected not only in her inner soul, but will also be written upon her and acted upon outwardly as well. The king wanders also in the forest of initiation, and here again we have the sense that there are 7 more episodes missing, the 7 stages of animus initiation. But again, we have fragments to extrapolate from. We have our ways and means. One of the clues is that the king does not eat for 7 years and yet is sustained. To not be nourished has to do with reaching under our urges and appetites to some deeper meaning that stands behind and down. The king's initiation has to do with learning a kind of deepening with regard to understanding appetites, sexual and otherwise. It has to do with learning the value and balance of cycles that sustain human hope and happiness. Additionally, since he is animus, his seeking has also to do with finding the fully initiated feminine in the psyche and keeping that as his main goal, regardless of whatever else crosses his path. Thirdly, his initiation into the wild self, as he becomes animal in nature for 7 years and does not bathe for 7 years, in order to peel away whatever layers of over civilizing chitin he has learned. This animus is doing the real work in preparation for showing and acting true to the soul self of the newly initiated woman in day-to-day life. So chitin, the layers of over civilizing chitin he has learned. Let's look that up. Chitin. 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 Solubilize. fibrous substance consisting of polysaccharides and forming the major constituent in the exoskeleton of arthropods, and the cell walls of fungi. Cool, fungi.
Chitin.
Chitin. Okay, cool. I've heard that before.
Chitin.
The fibrous substance consisting of polysaccharides and forming the major constituent in the exoskeleton of arthropods, and the cell walls of fungi. Fungi? Chitin. Cool. Uh-oh. Chitin. In order to peel away whatever layers of over-civilizing chitin he has learned. So like a structure? Structural. In the exoskeletons of crustaceans and insects. So it's like a structural key. Okay. I'm just trying to understand the sentence. In order to peel away whatever layers of over-civilizing chitin he has learned. So yeah, almost like an exoskeleton, I guess. I'm thinking. This animus is doing the real work in preparation for showing and acting true to the soul self of the newly initiated woman in day-to-day life. Excuse me. The storyline that refers to the veil being placed over the king's face while he sleeps is most likely another fragment from the old mystery rites. There is a beautiful sculpture in Greece of just this, a male initiate veiled with his head bowed as though resting or waiting or asleep. Now we see that the animus cannot be acting beneath her level of knowing, or she will become split again between what she feels and knows inwardly and how she, through her animus, behaves outwardly. So the animus must wander about in nature, in its own masculine nature, in the forest also. It is no wonder that both the maiden and king are caused to walk psychic lands where such processes take place. They can be learned only in the wildish nature, only next to the skin of the wild woman. It is usual that the woman so initiated should find her underworld love of the wild nature surfacing in her topside world life. Psychically, she has the fragrance of wood fire about her. It is usual that she begins to act here what she has learned there. Dead. One of the most amazing things about this long initiation is that the woman undergoing this process continues to do all the regular living of topside life, loving lovers, birthing babies, chasing children, chasing art, chasing words, carrying food, paints, skeins, fighting for this and the other, burying the dead, doing all the workday tasks as well as this deep, faraway journey. A woman at the same time is often torn in two directions, for there comes over her an urge to wade into the forest as though it is a river, and to swim in the green, to climb in the top of a crag, and sit face into the wind. It is a time when an inner clock strikes an hour that forces a woman to have sudden need of a sky to call her own, a tree to throw her arms about, a rock to press her cheek against. Yet she must live her topside life as well. My mom always says, she's always said to me, or not, she hasn't said this in a while, but she used to say this to me all the time. You have to live in the world too, Allie. It is to her extreme credit that even though she many times wishes to, she does not drive her car into the sunset, at least not permanently, for it is this outer life that exerts the right amount of pressure to take on the underworld tasking. It is better to stay in the world during this time rather than leave it, for the tension is better, and tension makes a precious and deeply turned life that can be made no other way, like a crystal. So we see the animus in its own transformation, readying to be an equal partner to the maiden and child self. At last they are reunited, and there is a return to the old mother, the wise mother, the mother who can bear it all, who helps with her wit and wisdom, and they are all united and have love for one another. The attempt of the demonic to overtake the soul has failed irrevocably. The endurance of soul has been tested and met. A woman goes through this cycle once every 7 years, the first time very faintly, and usually, one time at least, very hard, and thereafter in a rather memorial or renewing sort of manner. Right? Here at last, let us rest now and look over this lush panorama of women's initiation and its tasks. Once we have been through the cycle, we can choose any or all tasks to renew our lives at any time and for any reason. Here are some. To leave the old parents of the psyche, descend to the psychic land unknown, while depending on the goodwill of whomever we meet along the way. To bind the wounds inflicted by the poor bargain we made somewhere in our lives. To wander psychically hungry and trust nature to feed us. To find the wild mother and her succor. To make contact with the sheltering animus of the underworld. To converse with the psychopomp, the magician. To behold the ancient orchards, the energetic forms of the feminine. To incubate and give birth to the spiritual child self. To bear being misunderstood. To be severed again and again from love. To be made sooty, muddy, dirty. To stay in the realm of the woods people for 7 years till the child is the age of reason. To wait. To regenerate the inner sight, inner knowing, inner healing of the hands. To continue onward, even though one has lost all, save the spiritual child. To retrace and grasp her childhood, girlhood, and womanhood. To reform her animus as a wild and native force. To love him, and he, her. To consummate the wild marriage in the presences of the old wild mother and the new child self. The fact that both the handless maiden and the king suffer through the same 7 years long initiation is the common ground between feminine and masculine. It gives us a strong idea that instead of antagonism between these two forces, there can be profound love, especially if it is rooted in the seeking of one's own self. The Handless Maiden is a real life story about us as real women. It is not about one part of our lives, but about the phases of an entire lifetime. It teaches, in essence, that for women, the work is to wander into the forest over and over again. Our psyches and souls are specifically suited to this so that we can traverse the psychic underland, stopping here and here and here, listening to the voice of the old wild mother, being fed by the fruits of spirit, and being reunited with everything and everyone beloved by us. The time with wild mother is hard at first. To repair injured instinct, banish naivete, and over time to learn the deepest aspects of psyche and soul, to hold on to what we have learned, to not turn away, to speak out for what we stand for. All this takes a boundless and mystical endurance. When we come up out of the underworld after one of our undertakings there, we may appear unchanged outwardly, but inwardly, we have reclaimed a vast and womanly wildness. On the surface, we are still friendly, but beneath the skin, we are most definitely no longer tame. Dang. Hey, Stony Faith, welcome in. Awesome. Delaney Pearl. Awesome-o. 21 on the nose, it said. And that is the end of chapter 14. So yeah, the next time we go live, we're going to read the last 20 pages of this book, not even. Oh my goodness, the last 2 chapters and like the addendum and all that stuff. So I thank you all. I'm melancholy that this book is ending, but there's so many books. What a journey, right? Wow. I love yous. Thank you very much. I think I'm about to go live here real soon with some more from Real Alchemy by Robert Bartlett. Yeah, 7-7. I want to read chapter 7 on 7-7. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much. Mwah! Take care of yourselves. Thank you. Thank you. I hear you.